Maya never thought she would see Alex again, not after all these years, yet here he was, standing in front of her in the small coffee shop, shaking the rainy Friday evening from his shoulders as if he had just stepped out of her memories. The moment she heard her name, something inside her skipped a beat, a rush of nostalgia mixed with a hint of something dangerous, something she wasn't supposed to feel anymore. She blinked, adjusting her glasses against the foggy steam rising from her coffee cup, and there he was with that same easy charm, that same smile that had once made her heart race without warning. Life had moved on, as it always does, taking her down a path of stability with Daniel, someone safe, predictable, and loving, yet in that instant, none of that seemed to matter. Alex pulled out a chair with that confident ease he always had, the kind that had made her laugh 5 years ago during late-night study sessions and college parties, and she felt the old spark ignite, quiet but insistent, whispering memories she thought she had buried. Their conversation started casually, touching on old friends, shared classes, and laughable college mistakes, but soon it slipped into a rhythm that felt intimate and charged, each word carefully measured yet brimming with unspoken meaning, as if they were dancing around the feelings that had never truly left them. Maya noticed the subtle changes. Alex's voice had deepened, his eyes carried the weight of experiences she didn't know about, but his gaze still held the same intensity, the same pull that had made her dream about what might have been. She tried to keep her tone light, careful not to betray the storm of emotions inside her, yet every gesture, every laugh, every slight brush of his hand across hers sent shivers down her spine and made her pulse race uncontrollably. They both knew that the meeting was no accident, fate, timing, or coincidence had brought them together again, and it felt as though the universe was testing them, daring them to acknowledge the undeniable connection that lingered in the air like electricity before a storm. The rain outside pounded against the windows, a rhythm that matched the erratic beating of her heart, while the warmth of the coffee cup did little to calm the fire ignited by his presence. As they reminisced, Maya couldn't ignore the small, almost imperceptible ways Alex looked at her, the slight tilt of his head, the pause before he spoke, the soft smile that hinted at shared secrets only they understood. Her mind swirled with memories of late-night conversations, confessions, and laughter that had once made the world feel endless, now blending with the sharp awareness of her current life with Daniel. She knew she couldn't let herself fall back into old feelings, not when she had commitments, not when her life had a rhythm that was steady, safe, and predictable, yet every instinct screamed otherwise. By the time the rain slowed, they had lingered for hours, lost in a bubble of nostalgia and subtle tension, and as Alex finally stood to leave, he looked at her with that same intensity she had remembered, the kind that made her stomach twist with anticipation and fear. "Same time next week?" he asked, and though his words were casual, the meaning behind them was anything but. Maya nodded, heart pounding, aware that this simple agreement could open doors she thought she had closed forever, doors that led to longing, heartbreak, and perhaps something more intense than either of them was ready for. As she watched him walk away, disappearing into the misty evening, a mixture of excitement and dread settled over her, the kind that comes with knowing life is about to change in ways you cannot control, and that sometimes, the past refuses to stay in the past no matter how carefully you try to guard your heart. She sipped the now lukewarm coffee, staring at the empty chair across from her, feeling a tug she hadn't felt in years, a dangerous pull towards someone who had always been more than a memory, someone who had been a chapter she hadn't finished writing. The city lights outside blurred with the rain, creating a scene that was almost cinematic, almost surreal, and she realized that this encounter was not just a coincidence, it was a turning point. Every heartbeat, every thought, every flash of memory reminded her that emotions she had suppressed for half a decade were alive, and they were insistent. She had to navigate the maze of feelings, the thrill of reconnecting with someone who had once been her world, and the looming weight of responsibility to the life she had built, yet she knew deep down that she was standing at the edge of a choice that could redefine everything. Even as she walked home that evening, the drizzle settling around her, she felt as though the world had shifted slightly on its axis, tilting toward possibility, toward a story she wasn't sure she was ready to live, yet couldn't deny wanting. The memory of Alex's smile, the spark in his eyes, and the easy laughter they had shared lingered with her, echoing in her mind like a song she knew she shouldn't hum but couldn't help singing. That night, lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling, thinking about how quickly life could surprise you, how a single encounter could unravel the carefully woven threads of routine, and how the heart could betray reason with such insistence that it left you sleepless, longing, and questioning everything. And as sleep finally claimed her, Maya knew that seeing Alex again was not the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of one she hadn't dared to imagine, a chapter full of possibilities, choices, longing, and the subtle, dangerous thrill of a connection that neither time nor distance could fully erase. Over the next few weeks, Maya found herself thinking about Alex more than she wanted to, his presence lingering in her mind like a song she couldn't stop humming, and the more she saw him, the more complicated her feelings became, because every meeting, every smile, every casual touch brought back memories and stirred emotions she had thought she had left behind, yet life had a way of throwing obstacles in front of them, reminders that reality was never as simple as desire, and for Maya, the reality was Daniel, the man she had built a life with for 3 years, dependable, loving, and kind. Yet in the quiet moments when she was alone, she realized the fire Alex reignited in her heart was something she hadn't felt in years, a longing for excitement, connection, and a sense of being truly seen that her current relationship, as safe and steady as it was, couldn't fully provide, and Alex, despite his charm and the comfort of familiarity, was walking a similar path, carrying scars from past heartbreaks, relationships that ended abruptly, and a lingering caution that made him careful with his emotions. But around Maya, his walls seemed to soften, and for moments that felt infinite. They could almost forget the world outside, caught in the pull of shared history, laughter, and the unspoken possibility of what might be, yet their connection was a delicate dance, a balance between acknowledging the spark and not letting it consume them entirely, because both knew that giving in completely could bring consequences neither was ready to face, and still, they couldn't resist the subtle signs of attraction that hung in the air like a tension-filled melody, each glance and accidental brush of hands a reminder of a bond that time had not erased, and Maya found herself craving the conversations that made her laugh, that made her heart race, that reminded her that she was capable of feeling more than routine or comfort, while at the same time, guilt gnawed at her, a quiet but persistent voice warning her not to lose herself in something that could hurt others. Yet the thrill of rediscovery was intoxicating, each lunch, each walk in the park, each quiet cafe evening spent talking about life, dreams, and regrets pulled her deeper into a world where she could almost forget the responsibilities and expectations she had with Daniel, and Alex seemed to mirror her struggle, aware of the delicate line they were walking, yet unwilling to ignore the pull that years apart hadn't diminished, as though their lives had been slowly moving in circles, leading them back to each other at precisely the wrong time, yet the most compelling time for their hearts. And one evening, as they walked along the riverbank under the golden hues of a setting sun, the world seemed to pause, and Alex reached for Maya's hand, the warmth and firmness of his grip sending an unexpected shiver through her body, a silent confession that words could not capture, and for a moment, it felt as though everything else, Daniel, responsibilities, the world beyond that river, ceased to exist, leaving only the two of them, hearts beating fast, minds racing, and memories of the past colliding with the desires of the present. And Maya felt torn between the life she had promised to build with Daniel and the irresistible pull of someone who had once understood her in ways no one else had, someone who made her feel alive in a way that was both exhilarating and frightening. Yet despite the temptation, despite the longing that was almost unbearable, she knew that giving in completely was impossible without consequences, and that knowledge made every smile from Alex, every soft word, every shared secret, heavier, charged with meaning, because beneath the playful banter and casual conversations, there was an undercurrent of emotion, an intensity neither could fully ignore, and it became increasingly difficult for Maya to separate the past from the present, to distinguish between what was mere nostalgia and what was the undeniable spark of a connection that still burned brightly despite the years, while at the same time, she found herself reflecting on Daniel, the steady love he provided, the comfort of knowing someone cared deeply about her, and the quiet moments that were safe but lacked the electricity Alex stirred within her, and the conflict was constant, a push and pull that left her heart exhausted yet unwilling to let go of the feelings that had returned so unexpectedly, while Alex, too, wrestled with his own emotions, aware that pursuing anything further could complicate lives, yet unable to resist the moments when Maya's laughter rang like music, or when her gaze lingered on him longer than casual courtesy required, and every encounter seemed to stretch time. elongating minutes into hours, as if the universe had conspired to give them these small windows where they could exist in a bubble of closeness, untouched by the consequences waiting outside. Yet the tension between reality and desire only grew stronger, every conversation carrying hidden meanings, every subtle touch or glance a reminder of the depth of feeling neither was willing to fully name. And in those weeks, Maya realized that what she shared with Alex was not just a fleeting attraction or idle curiosity but something deeper, something that tested her values, her commitments, and her ability to navigate a life full of love, longing, and moral responsibility. And the evenings they spent walking through city streets drenched in the soft glow of streetlights or sitting quietly on benches near the park fountain became charged with emotional energy, silent confessions, and the almost unbearable weight of suppressed passion. And yet they continued, drawn together again and again, both aware that every smile, every moment of shared understanding, was a step closer to a tipping point where choices would have to be made, and each moment of intimacy, though completely innocent on the surface, carried the kind of tension that could shatter carefully built routines. And Maya often found herself replaying their interactions in her mind late at night, analyzing every word, every glance, every lingering hand gesture, questioning her feelings and her loyalty, while simultaneously feeling a thrill she hadn't experienced in years, a reminder that the heart rarely follows logic, that emotions are stubborn and persistent, and that life's twists often bring people together at times when the heart is least prepared, yet most willing to respond. And as another week ended, Maya and Alex met again, their conversation flowing effortlessly, laughter echoing through quiet cafes, shared memories resurfacing naturally, and the subtle undercurrent of tension building with each moment, until finally, at the end of a late afternoon walk, Alex stopped and looked at her, eyes searching hers as if asking for something unspoken, and Maya, heart pounding, realized in that moment that she had crossed an invisible line, that the feelings she tried to resist had grown too strong, too vivid, and too alive to ignore. And while the consequences of fully acknowledging those feelings loomed like shadows, the pull between them was undeniable, a magnetic force neither could fight. And she knew that the coming days would demand choices, that emotions that had been dormant for years were awake, insistent, and capable of changing everything she had worked to build. And in that delicate balance of desire, memory, responsibility, and longing, Maya understood that life had placed her at a crossroads, and whatever path she chose next could define her heart, her relationships, and the future she could no longer predict, leaving her in a whirlwind of anticipation, guilt, excitement, and fear, fully aware that love, in all its messy complexity, was both exhilarating and terrifying, and that the weeks with Alex had shown her a side of herself she had forgotten, a side that wanted more than comfort, more than stability, more than predictability. And now the question wasn't just whether she could resist, but whether she should, and whether her heart could survive the intensity of emotions that had been awakened once more by someone who had always held a special place within it. The tension between Maya and Alex reached a point that was impossible to ignore, a pull that neither could resist, and it all came to a head one evening at a charity gala, where they were unexpectedly paired for a slow dance, the soft piano music filling the elegant hall and creating a bubble around them that made everything else fade into the background. And from the first step, their movements were instinctive, as if their bodies remembered a rhythm that had been paused for years, each sway and gentle turn sending sparks of emotion through Maya that made her forget the careful, responsible life she had been trying to uphold, while Alex's hands rested lightly on her waist, firm yet comforting, guiding her with a mixture of familiarity and restraint that only deepened the unspoken connection between them. And as they moved together, the memories of college nights, shared laughter, whispered secrets, and fleeting glances flooded back with a vividness that was almost overwhelming, making her heart race and her breath catch, because for the first time in weeks, she felt completely present with someone who understood her in a way that no one else could. And yet at the same time, the weight of reality pressed in. Daniel, the life she had built, the commitments she had made, but in that moment, none of it mattered, because the energy between them was electric, charged with longing, regret, and an undeniable sense that the universe had brought them back together for a reason, or perhaps to test them. And Maya felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear as the dance continued, their eyes locked, each glance holding volumes of emotion neither dared to voice, while the music seemed to stretch time, elongating every heartbeat, every fleeting brush of hands, every shared smile. into something that felt like an eternity, and she realized that this closeness, this silent communication, was more powerful than anything she had experienced in years, reminding her of the intensity of her feelings for Alex, feelings that had been quietly simmering beneath the surface, ignored or suppressed, yet never fully gone. And as the song ended, and they reluctantly stepped apart, the room seemed to come back into focus, harsh lights, applause, conversations, and the realization that life outside this moment continued, but the connection they had just shared lingered like a soft glow, impossible to ignore or forget. And Maya walked back to her table, heart pounding, mind racing, thinking about how quickly emotions could overtake reason, how attraction could grow into something that challenged loyalty, and how love, in its most unexpected form, could arrive like a storm she hadn't seen coming, yet somehow longed for, because it reminded her of a part of herself she had lost to routine and stability, a part that wanted to feel alive, passionate, and unrestrained. And Alex, watching her from across the room, felt the same, a mix of exhilaration and sorrow, knowing that what they shared could not remain simple, innocent, or uncomplicated for long, that the tension between desire and reality would force choices, yet unwilling to let go of a single moment of closeness, a single flash of the old intimacy that reminded them of the depth of their connection. And over the next few days, their interactions became even more charged, every message, every call, every chance meeting filled with undercurrents of emotion, the kind that could ignite longing in the heart while simultaneously planting seeds of guilt and uncertainty. And Maya found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, excitement, fear, desire, and responsibility all colliding, because being near Alex reminded her of what she had almost forgotten, the thrill of connection, the intensity of attraction, the joy of being truly seen. Yet the moral compass she carried reminded her that she couldn't let emotions override the commitments she had made, and she struggled to balance the undeniable pull of Alex with the reality of her life with Daniel, who had begun to notice subtle changes in her behavior, her distracted glances, the way her mind seemed elsewhere. And though Daniel remained patient and loving, Maya knew that her divided heart could not sustain the secrecy forever, and the weight of potential consequences pressed on her as she navigated each interaction with Alex, careful to maintain appearances while secretly savoring the moments that made her pulse race, her chest tighten, and her mind whirl with what-ifs, maybes, and could-bes. And yet despite her inner conflict, there were moments when all logic disappeared, such as when Alex would catch her gaze across a crowded room and offer a small, knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement that the tension between them was palpable, mutual, and impossible to ignore. And every shared laugh, every casual brush of the hand, every subtle touch became a thread weaving a tapestry of connection that grew more intricate and emotionally charged with each passing day, testing her ability to remain faithful to the life she had promised to honor, while simultaneously awakening desires she could not simply push aside. And then there were the quiet evenings they shared walking along tree-lined streets, the soft glow of streetlights reflecting in puddles from earlier rain, where conversation flowed effortlessly, yet beneath each word lay layers of emotion, unspoken longing, and delicate tension. And in those moments, Maya felt a rush of happiness and fear intertwined, exhilarated by the closeness, yet painfully aware that she was treading dangerous ground, because surrendering to the emotions could fracture lives, relationships, and trust. And Alex, equally aware of the stakes, tempered his own emotions, yet couldn't ignore the magnetic pull that brought him closer, made him linger in conversations longer, smile more softly, and savor moments that were fleeting yet unforgettable. And as the days passed, their connection intensified, a subtle rhythm emerging, a silent understanding that while neither could fully act on the emotions without consequence, the bond they shared was undeniable, inescapable, and powerful, like a current running beneath the surface. Always present, always strong, and increasingly difficult to resist. And then came the night when they found themselves sitting on a quiet bench overlooking the river, the city lights twinkling in the distance, the air cool and crisp, carrying the scent of rain. And Alex turned to her, eyes searching hers as if trying to communicate everything without words, and Maya felt a shiver run through her, the unspoken tension finally reaching a breaking point, because in that gaze, she saw not just longing, but understanding, recognition, and a reflection of her own inner conflict. And for a fleeting moment, the world shrank to only the two of them, hearts beating in sync, breaths mingling in the night air, the weight of years, choices, and responsibilities suspended in a fragile, electric silence, and she realized that this connection, this bond, was not fleeting, not trivial, but something that would stay with her no matter what, shaping her choices, her heart, and the way she understood love and desire. And yet even in the beauty of that night, there was a quiet acknowledgement that they could not allow the emotions to rule completely, that decisions would have to be made, and that their lives, their relationships, and the people they cared about hung in the balance. And as she left that night, the chill of the evening matched the ache in her heart, the thrill of closeness tangled with the fear of consequences, leaving her restless, thoughtful, and aware that the next step, whatever it would be, could change everything, because love, in its most powerful form, doesn't arrive quietly or politely. It storms in, demands attention, tests patience, and forces the heart to confront itself. And Maya knew that she and Alex were at the center of such a storm full of longing, tension, passion restrained, and choices that could define not only their own futures but the lives of those around them. And in that moment, she understood that the story of them, of love and temptation, loyalty and desire, was far from over, that the coming days would be filled with challenges, emotional battles, and decisions that would test courage, integrity, and the depth of the human heart, and that sometimes, even the most careful plans could be swept away by the force of genuine connection, leaving only truth, emotion, and the possibility of heartbreak interwoven with moments of unparalleled beauty, intensity, and the unforgettable ache of what it means to love someone who awakens a part of you you thought was lost forever. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. For Maya, every day a careful balancing act between her lingering feelings for Alex and the life she had built with Daniel, because even though her heart raced at every message, glance, or unexpected meeting with Alex, she knew that the choices she made now could shape her future in ways she couldn't undo. And it was during one quiet afternoon, sitting on a park bench under the golden light of the setting sun, that Maya realized she had reached a point where pretending, suppressing, or delaying her emotions was no longer an option, because the connection she shared with Alex was too deep, too vivid, and too alive to ignore. Yet giving in fully would mean risking heartbreak, trust, and stability, and the weight of that knowledge pressed heavily on her, making every breath feel charged with tension, anticipation, and fear, while Alex, sensing the turmoil in her eyes and the hesitation in her smile, knew that they were both standing on a delicate edge, the precipice between desire and responsibility, between fleeting happiness and lasting consequences. And in that moment, words became unnecessary, because the look they shared communicated everything: regret, longing, understanding, and the quiet acknowledgement that while the heart wants what it wants, life rarely allows for perfection, and sometimes the bravest act of love is knowing when to step back, when to let go, and when to honor the lives and people who depend on you. And Maya's mind swirled with memories of all the laughter, late-night talks, walks, and moments of closeness that had reignited feelings she thought were long buried, while at the same time, she remembered Daniel's steady love, his patience, and the comfort of a life built on trust and commitment. And in that contrast, she understood that her heart was being tested not by the presence of Alex alone, but by the intensity of emotions that had been dormant for years, ready to claim her attention and challenge the choices she had made. And as the evening wore on, the park quiet except for the rustle of leaves and distant city sounds, she realized that clarity would only come through action, through honesty, through a confrontation with the truth she had been avoiding. And so she asked Alex to meet her one last time, at the pier where their shared confessions had first begun, the place where nostalgia and present reality collided. And when he arrived, his smile carried both warmth and sadness, a reflection of the complexity of their situation. And as they stood together, looking at the rippling water and the soft reflection of city lights, Maya felt a mix of fear, relief, and sorrow, because she had made a decision, not from weakness, not from avoidance, but from courage, the kind that acknowledges feelings without surrendering completely. And she spoke softly, "Alex, I can't keep doing this. I care about you, more than I probably should, but I have to be honest with myself, with Daniel, and with you. We can't live in this in-between forever." Alex's eyes softened, and he nodded, the tension between them giving way to understanding, because he too had felt the pull of inevitability, the intensity of the connection, and yet recognized the wisdom in restraint, in choosing what is right over what is easy, what is safe over what is thrilling. And for a long moment, they simply stood there, hands brushing lightly, hearts aching, fully aware of what they would lose and what they would save, and then, slowly, Alex spoke, his voice low but steady. Maya, I've felt the same. You've always been special to me, and this time with you has reminded me of that. But we can't force what's not meant to be. Maybe this is life telling us that timing matters more than desire. She smiled through tears, feeling the weight of relief mixed with heartbreak, because love, she realized, was not always about holding on. Sometimes it was about letting go with grace, honoring what had been, and protecting what still could be. And as they embraced, a bittersweet warmth enveloped them, a final acknowledgement of a bond that would remain in memory even as paths diverged. And Maya left the pier with a sense of both sorrow and empowerment, knowing that she had acted with integrity, with honesty, and with respect for the people in her life, while Alex, walking away in the opposite direction, carried with him the memory of a connection that had been meaningful, transformative, and unforgettable, a reminder that human hearts are resilient, capable of deep love, and capable of choosing wisely even when emotions run high. And in the following days, Maya returned to Daniel, who noticed the change in her, the quiet strength in her demeanor, the clarity in her eyes, and though she didn't recount the intimate details, she shared enough to rebuild trust, to reconnect with love that had been patient, waiting for her to choose fully. And in the quiet mornings, shared dinners, and gentle conversations that followed, she realized that love was not just passion, desire, or the thrill of what could be, but also commitment, honesty, and the courage to face life's challenges with integrity. And though she sometimes thought of Alex, she did so without regret, carrying memories of laughter, closeness, and emotional intimacy as lessons in the depth and complexity of the heart. And Alex, too, found peace in moving forward, cherishing what had been, learning from it, and allowing himself to open to new possibilities without clinging to what could never fully be. And in this way, both of them grew, learned, and understood that love is messy, emotional, and complicated, but it also teaches resilience, empathy, and the importance of timing, choices, and honesty. And in the end, Maya and Alex each walked separate paths with gratitude for the connection that reminded them of who they were, of what they valued, and of the beauty of human emotions, leaving them stronger, wiser, and open to the future. Because sometimes, the most profound acts of love are those that require letting go, embracing responsibility, and trusting that the heart can heal, grow, and love again without losing the lessons learned from moments that change you forever. And as Maya returned to her life with Daniel, she felt a sense of peace, a clarity of purpose, and a renewed appreciation for the power of honesty, the strength of commitment, and the enduring memory of a connection that, though it could not continue, had shaped her heart in ways nothing else could, teaching her that love is not just about possession or fulfillment, but about understanding, restraint, courage, and the beauty of choosing what is right even when the heart desires something else. And in that realization, she finally found balance, a quiet happiness, and the knowledge that life's twists, turns, and unexpected reunions carry lessons that make the heart richer, deeper, and ready for whatever comes next. And Alex, from a distance, smiled at the memory of her, understanding that some connections exist to remind us of our capacity to feel deeply, love fully, and make choices that honor not just ourselves, but everyone touched by our hearts. And together, in separate lives, they carried forward the lessons, emotions, and bittersweet beauty of a chapter that ended with maturity, love, and hope for the future.